Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Aspen Bridge. I'm Suzanne Plumley. I am a life coach for late diagnosed autistic women, and I have with me Carie King, who's also a life coach, and I'll let her tell you a little bit more about herself in a moment. But last week we talked about the spiritual side of self-talk and how God has a purpose for you, and how you really need to understand that there's nothing wrong with you. You're made exactly the way you're made, and you have a purpose exactly for what you're doing. So I just want you to know that even our higher power never intended you to be dysfunctional, as others may think you are, and you're not. Today we're talking about self-talk from the caring and the self-preservation, the self-dignity of our own souls, of our own wanting to be better people in society because we know we are. But we also need to talk like we are. That's not talking above, that's not being grandiose. It's the self respect for what we're able to do. It's the self respect for how we talk to ourselves. I'm so stupid. Why'd I do that? I don't know why I made that mistake. Yeah, that kind of talk. We want to help you get away from that kind of talk. And that's what I have Carie King here for today. Carie, would you love to introduce yourselves and tell people who you really like to help?
Mm, yes, thank you. Thanks for having me here today, Suzanne. My name is Carie King, and I am a life coach. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and through that whole journey, I knew that I was destined to continue helping people. As a kid, I was really trying to help my parents. And so my whole life has been about helping other people. And then through my master's program, I learned that I had to put my own oxygen mask on first. So now there's a balance where when the tide rises, all boats rise. So I have a great work-life balance. I love helping people from all walks of life, all genders, any age, because basically I'm helping people uncover the subconscious blocks that are keeping them from achieving the goals that they have set for themselves and realizing the dreams that they have for themselves.
That is awesome. Yeah, those subconscious, and in my world, we call those paradigms. They can be pretty feisty to get rid of
Yeah,
them at times. That's for sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, Carie, what do you think when people say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so stupid. I made a stupid mistake." What do you feel? I mean, for me, it just makes my heart cringe. Like, no, you're not. You're
Yeah.
not stupid, and please don't put yourself down. How do you feel?
Yeah, I have a similar feeling. I think I have a physical reaction to it. I think things in me shrink and tighten up. And I do have a desire to encourage someone to stop doing that. And I will ask them things like, well, would you say that to your best friend or your kid?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, how about talk to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend or your child? And so that can snap people out of it. Sometimes they still go, oh yeah, 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 and I'm like, okay, well, any people you have in your life that you influence, they do what you do, not what you say.
Mm.
So even if you think that you can get away with it and you won't say it to anybody else, they feel your energy and they feel what's happening with you and they will mimic what you do. Now, recently, I have been curious about rescuing, and I've been watching myself and wondering if I'm standing in someone's presence and they're beating themselves up, do I say something or do I stand there and have a genuine response? Which my genuine response is, this doesn't feel true to me. This doesn't feel right. And see if they want to bring themselves around to a more loving um, inner dialogue. Sometimes people are stuck in a loop where they're doing that because they're fishing for feedback and compliments from people.
Oh, right.
So,
Yeah.
like, do I want to contribute to that? Not really. So sometimes I'm sitting in this middle ground where I'm not going to condone the hammers that people use to beat themselves up, but I'm also not going to go rescue them because it's like the butterfly in the cocoon. If we rip open the cocoon, then the butterfly doesn't do that struggle, which is what pushes the life force into the wings, which is what means the butterfly can fly.
Oh,
So,
yes. Yeah, I have
yes.
heard that story, and you're right. I mean, here we think we're helping people, but we're really not helping them. If we keep coming to their rescue, they're never going to learn how to do it for themselves. And I like the part where you said sometimes they're fishing for other people. That comes back to the self identity part that I was talking about earlier. You really need to know that you want to be around people that can pull themselves back to, oh, wait a minute, I
Yeah.
no, I just made a mistake. And yeah, we are not perfect beings. We do
Right.
make mistakes. But yes, we want to make sure that we don't give ourselves a constant fluid of, or that's not the best word, but a constant attraction to people that we feel like we have to rescue. And let
Yeah.
me tell you, I rescued someone for 9 months and she didn't even make it a year. So I have learned that lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It, yes, we want to help people.
Yes.
Yes, we want to help people, but we want them to find that their strengths are what's going to take them forward. Not telling them they're stupid themselves, that
Yeah.
they're stupid. That doesn't solve anything. But we can do what I call a repatterning
Mm-hmm.
of behavior. Oh, look at what you did over here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or
Right. Redirect.
exactly, pattern redirection, or making them come back to, didn't you say that you got this award last week? Tell me about it. I mean,
Yes.
sometimes that's just enough to get them to pattern interrupt. Just
Yep.
reminding them, you're not telling them don't say that. You're redirecting them to a strength that they did possess or do possess currently that they may have forgotten about because that mistake is ballooned into something full-fledged.
Yep. Yep. And you're tapping into something that's just so beautiful. Our nervous system responds to us. And so when we're on a negative down spiral, our nervous system shuts down. It goes into fight or flight. There's different hormones and chemicals being released in that vein. And then when we start looking at, you can just even look at the sky and go, the sky is blue and there are some fluffy white clouds. That starts shifting us out of the amygdala and starts reaffirming for the nervous system that we're not being chased by a saber-tooth tiger. We're not in danger right now. Everything is fine. And then our body can go back into restorative processes, rejuvenating things, and our health is better. Like all the people in my life I know who look 20 years younger than they are do stuff like that. And all the people in my life I know who look 20 years older than they are,
Yes.
they stay in the self-flogging and the victim spiral. I was just in a victim spiral yesterday and I stayed in it for a few hours. So nobody's perfect. But I caught myself and I went, oh, wait a second. Let's do it. Redirect, redirect, redirect.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. My mentor, Mary Morrissey, says to us, it's okay to have a pity party, but know when the party ends.
Yes. Set a
Allow,
timer.
okay, fine. I'm going to be just in this state for 2 hours while I'm at home.
Yes.
And
Yes.
allow yourself. She says you can pitch a tent, but don't camp there.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. I
She
like
said
to say
know when to
when
come
I'm,
out of the forest.
yeah, I like to say when I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death, I'm not going to pitch a tent. I'm just going to keep walking.
Yes, that's the same idea
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Carie, I know that sometimes people feel like they are putting themselves down because that's the environment that they've come from. How do
Mhm.
you think we can help people? Because I know in my own personal circumstance, I have to leave any circumstance where others are criticizing me because I'll start criticizing myself. And I know I have to leave. What are some of your tactics when you get into that situation where people may not be as aware of your strengths, they're more aware of your
Mhm.
challenges.
Yeah, I do leave too. I think that that is a worthy coping mechanism, and I do it. Sometimes I will make a little excuse. Sometimes I'll just go to the bathroom if I'm in a public setting. I'll be like, I drank a lot of water, I'll be back. And I regroup and close my eyes. That is huge for a reset. Over long term, I've had courageous conversations with people where it became evident that it was a one-way street. I was lifting them up and always giving to them, and it wasn't coming back the other way. So I've released those friendships. Um, I have also been active in personal growth work myself since 1989. And so this is a life choice for me. And what I've found is when I'm around other people who are also active in personal growth, they are at a higher vibration. They still have car accidents, they still lose their jobs, they still have relationship problems, they still have health challenges, but they respond to all of those things from instead of a victim stance, an agency stance. Where's my agency? What can I do differently? And so from hanging out with these people for years and years and years in different venues, I end up on this path, I end up over here. I hear them say things and I'll come right out and ask them, well, I thought that I wasn't able to do this or that, or I thought that I was too whatever. And they'll go, nope, not at all. And that's it. But like you said a few minutes ago, it's totally fine to ask for support. That
Mhm.
is taking responsibility for yourself. It's when we do the backhanded kind of passive, like fishing for compliments or complaining about something that we hope someone will swoop in and fix for us. Those are the things that keep us chasing our tails. And then people gravitate away from us because they feel the icky pull of that. I used to do it. So no shade, but get out of that habit as soon as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah. Oh, exactly, exactly. It's like we are still humans. We are still gonna deal, as you said, when you said we still have accidents, we still lose our job and everything. But you're right. It comes down to the fact of when we get ourselves back into those people who are in personal development, and we come away from what I've been calling common hour people, common hour thinking people, where this is the way it is, and just I'm not gonna change. You It's like, okay, I'm gonna limit the time I spend with you. And I'm going to go back into the group of people that are thinking higher, because those are the ones that are going to help me bounce back faster. That's one thing. The other thing you said comes into the radical acceptance of people not being able to change. And I have that in my own little world, which I've come to say they're not going to change. And I can ask for support, listen to what they say, and when I hear what they're saying is not producing for me, okay, thank you, and go in another direction. It's when you sit there and you keep expecting them to do what you need them to do, you're not getting anywhere. You're just going to get lower and lower. But if you're like, okay, fine, I heard your answer, I gave you the opportunity to rise up with me, you
Yep.
chose not to, I'm going over here.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. I have a great example because um, I have one parent who doesn't want to do any personal growth work with me, and we have a very superficial relationship. I have another parent who does and has stuck with me, and we have been committed to our parent child relationship, and it has grown. Now, there are aspects of him that will never change, and aspects of me that will never change, and we have butted heads for sure. But we always come back to, you know what, we're just going to agree to disagree. We're just going to put that off to the side because our relationship is more important. And it's an interesting journey as a kid to mourn that my mother doesn't want to engage with me in this way. That's an interesting
Mhm.
journey, and it has been just in and out of mourning and grief and acceptance and grief and
Mhm.
acceptance and grief and acceptance. And I'm in this level now where I almost never cry about it. And I'm like, okay, great. It's not really about me. It's
Yeah.
not.
You
So,
and
and it
I
makes
had,
me,
yeah.
yeah, and it makes me that much more thankful for my dad.
Well, that's it. That's it. And you and I had this conversation when you and I first met, and we have a very similar situation. And I think my getting to that feeling of radical acceptance of like, okay, I'm going to call her up and I'm going to offer her to go to lunch like I did today. No, I
Yep.
can't. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, whereas the old maid would be like, she just doesn't want to do anything with me anymore. And I mean, no,
Mhm.
it's just like, all right, fine, that's her choice.
Mhm.
She's losing out.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And that's where we go to. We really know our chosen family is going to be the people that we choose to surround us with. And I have a whole wonderful family of
Yes.
that I've chosen to be around. And I'm going to keep going that direction. And there are going to be those in our lives currently that are going to be rejecting or resisting of that because they don't want us to navigate away from them. And that's their choice. They can feel
Yep.
rejected. They get the right to own their own feelings. We don't
Exactly.
own them for them, and that's a big thing right there. My mother's going to reject me. Well, yeah, maybe she is. And let me tell you, it's taken me 9.5 years to
Yep.
get to this point of, yeah, so
Yep.
she
Yep.
rejects that part of me.
Yep.
That's her loss, not mine. So.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. I love it. Yeah.
All right. So you and I both know that we have so many strengths that outweigh any of our weaknesses, and we
Mhm.
don't call them disabilities. We call them
Right.
challenges. We call them perhaps weaknesses that are warranting of more improvement, more personal development time. We never call them a problem
Right.
because the
Right.
problem is such a low energy.
Hmm. Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, I remember when I first was introduced to the possibility that I might have a reading disability. I was in college and it was my sophomore year, and I had gotten my psychology book and I was caressing it. I was so happy to have my psychology book and to be in this class. And so I opened it up to that assignment, that homework, and I started reading, and within 2 minutes, my brain was shutting down and I was devastated because I thought freshman year it was just because I was, partying and getting used to being on campus and woohoo, I left home and I have freedom, etc. But no, it was happening with my favorite subject. So I went in and talked
Mhm.
with a guidance counselor. He said, "Well, it sounds like you have a reading disability." Now, at first, my brain went, "Whoa, I'm not a
Yeah.
lazy procrastinator, you know, loser." Okay,
Yeah.
great. But pretty quickly, I went into I do not want to describe myself as someone who has a learning disability for many, many reasons. So, learning differences is definitely my phrase of choice. And I have a personal soapbox. I talk about Howard Gardner a lot. He writes about multiple intelligences. There are 8
Mhm.
different types of intelligences. People are starting to expand to more than that, but we'll start with 8. The school systems cater to 2, and if you don't fit in those 2, you're labeled with a disability. It's the school system that is disabled. It's not the person. There are lots of school systems out there that actually do accommodate this. I volunteered at a school in Santa Fe, New Mexico back in the 90s called the Little Earth School. And I worked in the 6 to 9 year old classroom. And they would have a project, for example, where they would write a play. Now, the strong writers would take the lead and they would write. Everybody had to stay connected to the group, but not everybody had to participate in the writing.
Mhm.
Then they had those who were strong in mathematics measure all their bodies and uh, uh, what's the word for when you translate it to convert it to
I'll
smaller
compare. Yeah.
measurements so they could make puppets of themselves that were a smaller scale of themselves. Then those who liked fabric stuff like you were making the clothing for the puppets, and people who liked were making sets, and people who wanted to be on stage were performing the puppet show and selling tickets to the parents. And it was just this amazing collaborative cooperative environment where kids were learning all the time, and there was no, you have to sit in your seat and you have to do this worksheet like this and you have to read these 500 pages and you have to write 15-page research paper, etc. So it's happening all over here in Denver. There's Denver Academy has an MI component for multiple intelligences. People are catching on to this slowly but surely. And
Yeah.
what Megan Bondi is doing here, we're working with neurodivergent kids too. So all that to say that there's, like, we use the term neurodivergent to help someone understand why they've had such a tough time because they don't fit into what our society has deemed as normal. But I was watching this video and it's like, imagine you were walking through a home that people in wheelchairs had built. If people were in wheelchairs, the doorways would be wider and shorter. The ceilings would be shorter. And then you have some people not in wheelchairs come in and they're bumping their heads on everything. So now we're going to accommodate for them and give them accommodations. We're going to get them hard hats. We're going to get them a little harness pulley system to help them, the fact that they're hunched over all the time. So, like, it's easy to see it when you look at it that way. Well, it's true for all human beings on this planet. If an environment or a system is not working for someone, go somewhere else or change the environment or the system.
That's what it is, right? That goes right back to what I was talking about earlier with my Aspie. It's just like going through and finding the way to create the new system before anyone else gets hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's adjustable for all people and not just for a certain demographic of type of person. It's welcoming
Right.
to everybody.
Right, right. Lots of people win if you put a wheelchair ramp in. It's not just a wheelchair ramp. That's a wagon ramp when someone has a lot of heavy things to carry. That's a nice ramp when someone broke their foot and they're on crutches. Lots of people
Exactly.
win.
Exactly. That's the big
Mhm.
thing right there. So we were just talking about the deeper conversation about neurodivergence and the fact that there are so many of us because we haven't been adapting to the world the way others see it, that
Mhm.
we now are going through all of our world saying, well, that's great, but I can improve it by doing this. That's
Yes.
wonderful, and that's a great start, but I can improve it by doing that. I was in a grocery store the other day where I used to work, and I had told them I was what they call the shopper. I went and shopped things, and at the time I was shopping, I said, all of the orders are falling over because you only have these little ramps. Well, wouldn't you know that they've gone and put real baskets in? I'm like, see?
Yay. Yeah.
See what happens when someone
Yes.
starts to put in the idea that
Yes.
you need baskets? It's an improvement for everybody. And that's kind of what neurodivergent people do. It's kind of like our minds are going in invention mode all the time. How can we improve this to make it better for all? And it would be
Mhm.
nice if we could get other people, not just neurodivergent people, to say, hey, this is a great system, but I can see improvements. We're not going to say this is a stupid system. We're going to say this is a great invention. How can I make it better?
Mhm, mhm. Yes. Yes. Agreed. Yes.
I think that's
Yes.
just the way and why we were born the way we're born, so we could help to
Yes.
improve systems, not keep them stoic. Because a lot of people won't see the problem as fast as some of us can, and that's not to make us superheroes. That's just because we're far more detail oriented because we've had to adjust to other people's systems.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, and I see it as a stained glass window because, you can look at a stained glass window and see all of its beauty, but every single piece of it on its own is way less beautiful. And so, even though I bring something to the picture different than what you bring to the picture, different than what Sally brings to the picture, different than what David brings to the picture, like all of us together make up something really, really beautiful, and it's way bigger than the sum of the parts. So, one plus one is not two.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
much more than
Well,
two.
that's exactly what you were talking about with this little school. And in my mind, when I went through elementary education, we called it the jigsaw method, where you don't put all the writers together and all the math people together and all this group together. You take one of each person, one of each type of person, you create a team of it. That's like your stained glass, is you
Yes.
have someone with different strengths coming together in one community. And that leads us to the amazing discussion that you and I have together, which is Carie and I are both two of the five admins for a great program, which I told you about 2 weeks ago that I was a part of, the Golden Girl Gang. And in this, we are creating, for R2, we're creating the neuro-inclusive side of community where we're taking close, detailed attention to what others might need to have a sensory-free, masking comfortable, because there are some times when you can choose to mask to save your dignity until you can find somewhere safe. We're not saying we're cutting out masking altogether. Masking can be a good tool when you're in a tough spot, a tough conversation where you need to hold yourself for dignity and then find a safe place. So we're just coming to help people understand that they belong. They don't have to wear the mask all day long in front of other people. And Carie, tell me a little bit about your community because you're a couple of steps ahead of me. So tell me what's going on in your community.
So even though the group is called Golden Girls Gang, some of us are including all genders. So I just want to say that up front. The page itself, we're 24,000 members strong now, and it is mostly women. And a lot of us are creating communities that are all inclusive. My community is in Colorado. The center of our bullseye is Golden, Colorado, but we are considering other areas. In fact, we just went to look at a property last Saturday that is a little east of Golden, a little east and north of Golden, and it's a very real possibility we may go under contract on that property. And what that's looking like is it's a multifamily with 4 units, and so there are 4 or 5 or 6 of us co-buyers who will buy it, and 5 of us probably will live in 2 of the units, and then the other unit, 1/3 unit, will be available for people to rent to own. So people who are interested in community living and want to also earn equity and own property in Colorado. Colorado has become really expensive, and so one of our goals is affordability. So we will welcome people who want to eventually buy and allow them to rent to own, and then we'll have a short-term rental that will allow people to come in and see what it's like to live in an intentional community. We might have workshops where we help people talk about what your community guidelines are going to be, or what the legal entities are that are available to you, or like, look at this garden and here are before pictures and here's what's happening now and here's what's in process and we've got this greenhouse going, or we're going to put a tiny home here or a yurt here, we're having yoga retreats, etc. There's so much to it. Like, so many different communities are doing what feels right to them. So the other thing we're doing here in Colorado is we're starting to network. Like, I have a friend who already has a property, so I am helping her find renters that want to rent to own for her property, and she'll go buy on this property. And then there's somebody else who started Queen City years ago, 8 years ago. So we're just all collaborating because together we're stronger, and because there are different properties and different desires, we're allowing for that variety and diversity. So there's a freedom within a structure, a community will decide on its guidelines, of course, but there's still freedom and room to be oneself. So it's amazingly exciting. And I'm excited that you're doing it too in North Carolina.
Yes, I am. And mine's going to be a little different. I'm going to start out with the women who have had some family challenges growing up. I am taking the late diagnosed autistic woman who is at the point where she's like, I'm done being a victim, but I also need help. I need help to go back over the bridge. I need help to understand how to deal with my family while I go over the bridge, because we were talking about at the beginning that they're not quite at the point where they can radically accept their family. So I'm going to be bringing in women into a center where we can find their strengths and build on their strengths. And we're going to take the strengths that they already have. Now, possibly I have a woman that came from the restaurant business, and she might help make the menus. Now think of what's going to happen when she gets to realize that she gets to put her strengths into creating menus for all of us. Does that mean she'll do all the cooking? No. It just means that that's her zone of expertise. Then I may have a woman who comes in who's great with gardening. She has another piece of the puzzle that we were just talking about. She's going to help us to create the gardens and the greenhouse and teach everyone else how to do that kind of thing. I'll be working with the crafting and the scrapbooking for mental and therapeutic scrapbooking. Another woman may be doing another entity. So just like we were talking about, by finding different women that have different strengths and building on those strengths, they're going to find that when they are highly supported and they feel like they belong, their whole environment's going to open up and they're going to realize that they are valued, they are loved. Where they may not
Yes.
have come from that before because they may have been trying to fit into this cookie box that the rest of their families put them in. This will be a new environment.
Yep, I love that. And you're reminding me, I had this inspiration a few months ago. I was like, okay, in our community, we have different people from different walks of life with different skills. And we need to get some stuff done. Like we've been building trust and getting together and communing together for a year. I've been doing this for a year. So I was like, it's time to get some stuff done. So we made a list of the things that would need to get done and prioritized it on a timeline because some things are going to be further down the road, et cetera. And then across the top, we each have it, we put it in a table and we each have a column with our initials. And we each get to go down the list and claim with a 1, 2, or 3 the things we love to do, the things we like to do, or the things we're neutral about. And my hope is that everything that needs to be done will be claimed by somebody who likes to do it. What a concept. And now we're
Right.
stronger together. Now, if there are a few things that are left unclaimed, then we look at it together as a community and we go, okay, who would be the best to form a committee to work on these things so that we're all stronger together? So I just love working in your zone of genius and playing to your strengths. Like it's such a nicer way to live.
It is because what happens is when you feel like your skills are wanted, needed, and appreciated, think of what that does to the rest of your psyche. Like, I'm no longer an outsider, I am needed in this spot. And
Right.
that's a lot of what my coaching does is my coaching really helps you to find your special zone of genius, your special zone and other things that you want to learn that are related to that, bringing that and saying, we appreciate you because this is what you can do.
Yep.
And now the woman's
Exactly.
like, oh, I don't do things wrong. I said, we all make mistakes. We're going to accept everyone's mistakes every day. That's who we are. But
Yep.
that doesn't mean that's who you are.
Right. Right.
You are not known by your mistakes. You're known by what your strengths are.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. I love it. I love it. I love that we're doing this work in the world.
Well, and you and I had talked about being able to travel back and forth. And when you
Yes.
were on a little bit of the East Coast and
Yes.
the
Yes.
Atlantic Ocean, Carrie, I'm going to have a
Yes.
spot for you, just like you were talking
Yes.
with your rental. It is
Yes.
my intention at my community, and this is what you were kind of talking about with yours, that people can live in a house or they can live in a tiny home or they, depending what their needs are. I'm going
Hmm.
to have it such that most of my women, because they've been through such duress, they want to have their private space. And that's
Yeah.
good. We understand that. So they will be in tiny homes. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to have a fun little bunkhouse where you could
Yeah.
come and spend some
Yeah.
time in the bunkhouse for a weekend and say, hey, I want to get involved in some of your activities, or I'd love to
Nice.
learn what you're doing with your community. So, yes, we're going to have some sister sites. And I love the idea that, Carie, you were talking about where we're going to have a glossary, not glossary, a directory of all different communities
Yes.
across the U.S. so that when you
Yes.
do want to travel, you don't have to go to a hotel. You
Right.
can check out one of these other communities in another part of the country. Tell us a little bit about that vision and the
And
things that bring
and
that.
And internationally, we
Oh,
have
yeah.
connected with people internationally. So yes, I did early on connect with someone who had worked for Salesforce, and she called herself a CRM geek, and it was true. She was so smart about it, and she started collecting things. So we have this vision. She since has been distracted by some personal things, so we're giving her that space and holding her in the light. But we're waiting for the person to come along who wants to do this. Let's create a CRM where you can go in. Now there is, I think it's ic.org, where you can go and look for communities that are around the world. So maybe we just jump on those. But I feel like there's space to foster the visiting more, because if you go on ic.org, it's not always, I don't know if they're clear about whether you could visit or not. So this is the fact that we can move around the globe and go visit a friendly face, even though we know absolutely no one there yet. These are people, friends we haven't met yet. So I'm excited for us to get that going at some point.
That will be great. Now, I want to tell everybody this is an important thing that I've noticed from our organization. We are developing, we are not ready made. I've seen so many of our women who have come into the Golden Girl Gang either to be with the all women or be in the inclusive, and they're like, where is it?
Mm-hmm.
As if they can move in tomorrow or put their
Right,
money down.
right,
We are
right.
still in development, but we would love
Yep,
to have team members. No one person can create the village by themselves.
right.
And this is what I hope everybody's been picking up on. We need all of you with special interests to come in and so we can make a team, not a Lone Ranger village.
Exactly, exactly. Yep, yep, exactly.
All
Yeah.
right. So, Carie, I want to say thank you. Can you let everybody know how to get a hold of you?
Thank you. Yes, yes. So I am on Facebook, and I have a professional page on Facebook. My name is Carie King, Carie with one R, Carie King. And my website is actually getting a makeover right now, so it'll be up and running again very soon. And because we are including an online coaching program, it's a 7-week online coaching program called CARES. Of course, the CARES stands for stuff. You'll have to join in to find out. And I'd be happy to hear from anybody anytime.
That's great. So if you're interested in learning more about Carie or asking her a question, if you go to the Aspie Bridge Facebook group page and you can go under Carrie's name, you will be able to ask her any question you like, and
Yes.
she'll tell you how she can get more, you can get more in contact with her and get into maybe one of her programs. If you're in a situation where you'd like to come my direction, of course, the Aspie Bridge, you can go on that and ask me a question. The Patreon, the Aspie Bridge, and all sorts of different ways because I'm here to really make sure that you don't stay in victimhood. You
Mhm.
advance confidently over this bridge and go back into enjoying your life. And I want to
Yes.
say thank you to Carie for coming today to the Aspie
Thank you.
Bridge.
Yes. Thank you, Suzanne. My pleasure.
Wonderful. Next week, we'll be talking about self talk in the workplace because a lot of us put ourselves up to a lot of expectations that aren't realistic. So I'd love to have you come back and learn how to feel like you can be yourself and still be in the workplace with other expectations and know what's realistic. But I want to say thank you for coming today, and I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.